Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a profoundly important topic, healing from trauma. But right off the bat, I want to reframe how we look at this. You see, trauma is not a character flaw, and it is definitely not a weakness. Actually, it's a brilliantly adapted evolutionary survival mechanism, one that kept you alive in the face of overwhelming danger. The catch? It just got stuck in the on position. So today, we're going to explore how to unstick it, guided by the absolute latest clinical research and neuroscience. Okay, let's dive into this. It's a question so many survivors ask themselves, and it perfectly validates a core physiological reality. Trauma fundamentally alters the neurobiology of your nervous system. Seriously, when a memory feels like a current physical threat, you are not just imagining things. Your autonomic nervous system is literally locked in a perpetual state of defense. Your body is reacting as if the danger is still right there in the room with you because biologically speaking, the alarm system hasn't been turned off yet.
To help us understand how to turn that alarm off, here's our roadmap for today. First, trauma in the body. Then, the window of tolerance, followed by top-down healing therapies, bottom-up somatic therapies, expanding your window, and finally, the path to integration.
Section 1. Trauma in the body.
To truly heal, we first have to understand how trauma physically impacts the brain and the autonomic nervous system. And the foundation of all this lies in a concept coined by Dr. Stephen Porges called neuroception. Basically, neuroception is your brain's rapid, preconscious threat detection system. It operates completely below the level of conscious thought. Now, in someone without a trauma history, this system accurately reads the environment. But chronic stress and trauma, they severely bias your neuroception. It makes your internal threat detection system hypersensitized, causing it to constantly misread totally neutral cues, like a sudden shift in lighting or just a flat tone of voice, as imminent danger. You're plunged straight into survival mode before your thinking brain even gets a chance to assess the situation.
So to understand how we counter this, we need to talk about the vagus nerve. Think of your nervous system kind of like a car. The sympathetic nervous system, that's your gas pedal, your fight-or-flight response. The ventral vagal complex acts as the vagal brake. In a safe environment, this brake exerts a really stabilizing influence. It keeps your heart rate calm and restricts that sympathetic gas pedal. But trauma causes this alarm system to get stuck. It lowers your vagal tone, essentially ripping the brake right out of the car, which severely impairs your ability to relax and recover after a stressful situation.
Section 2. The window of tolerance. This optimal zone of arousal for functioning effectively in everyday life was a concept developed by Dr. Dan Siegel, and this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we're pushed outside of it. You see, when you're inside your window of tolerance, you can think clearly, you can feel your emotions without being totally overwhelmed. But trauma causes you to basically blow a fuse. If you're pushed above the threshold, you enter hyperarousal. The gas pedal is floored, leading to racing thoughts, panic, and hypervigilance. But if you're pushed below the threshold, you drop into hypoarousal. That's a dorsal vagal shutdown, characterized by numbness, freeze, and dissociation. Now you might be wondering, why does it feel like everything sets me off? Well, if you frequently find yourself bouncing between these extreme states of panic and numbness, it's because trauma actually physically shrinks your window of tolerance. A narrowed window means it takes significantly less stress to push you into dysregulation. Everyday stressors that might just brush off someone else can throw you completely off balance. Understanding this is absolutely crucial because it removes the shame. Your reactions aren't an overreaction, they are the literal result of a narrowed physiological window.
Section 3. Top-down healing therapies.
All right, now that we understand the biology, let's look at how we fix it. These are clinical, evidence-based solutions that target the mind, utilizing cognitive approaches to process memories and reshape beliefs. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how these different top-down therapies systematically dismantle the fear networks that are maintaining your trauma. Take prolonged exposure, or PE. This involves 8 to 16 weekly sessions of gradual, structured confrontation with trauma memories to help reduce avoidance. Then there's cognitive processing therapy, or CPT, which takes about 12 sessions and really focuses on restructuring the distorted beliefs about safety and trust that trauma often leaves behind. And trauma-focused CBT is a highly effective, modular approach, often used for younger patients, focusing on component-based narrative building. What they all share is the use of cognitive strategies to finally help your brain realize that the threat is in the past. To give you a real idea of just how effective these cognitive approaches can be, look at this number. Studies show that a massive 60% of participants achieve significant, persistent PTSD symptom reduction through cognitive processing therapy alone. By deliberately identifying and challenging distorted beliefs, things like self-blame or the terrifying idea that the entire world is dangerous, patients can achieve long-term remission and actually reclaim their cognitive flexibility.
Section 4. Bottom-up somatic therapies.
However, cognitive strategies alone aren't always enough. Why? Because trauma is deeply embedded in the body's tissues and the subcortical structures of the brain. We often need therapies that engage the body directly to process implicit, nonverbal trauma. A fantastic bridge between the mind and body is EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. This therapy uses bilateral stimulation, like guided eye movements or tapping, to jumpstart your brain's memory processing system. By taxing your working memory with this dual attention, EMDR helps organize and integrate dysfunctionally stored memories. And the real beauty of this approach? It doesn't require detailed verbal accounts or intense between-session homework, which makes it incredibly accessible for folks who find just talking about the trauma way too overwhelming. For a fully body-centered approach, therapies like somatic experiencing and sensoromotor psychotherapy are absolute game changers. They use very specific interventions to release that trapped survival energy from the body. First, you'll see resourcing, which is all about building an internal anchor of physical safety. Then there's titration, which means exposing the nervous system to traumatic material in tiny, manageable doses so you don't get re-traumatized. Pendulation is the gentle, rhythmic movement of attention back and forth between states of discomfort and safety. And finally, they help clients physically complete interrupted defensive responses, like that urge you might have had to push someone away or run, that were thwarted during the actual traumatic event.
Section 5. Expanding your window. But listen, healing doesn't just happen in a therapist's office for 1 hour a week. You have the power to cue your own nervous system that it's safe, right at home. So the crucial point is that you can use everyday techniques to stimulate your vagus nerve and build a secure, regulated foundation. Here are 5 doctor-approved ways to reset your vagus nerve naturally. Number 1, intentional breathwork, specifically making sure you exhale longer than you inhale, which directly signals safety to the brain. Number 2, gentle aerobic movement to help shift your body out of sympathetic overdrive. 3, cold exposure, like simply splashing cold water on your face, triggers a really powerful calming reflex. 4, engaging your senses with low-frequency sounds or humming, which physically vibrates and stimulates the vagus nerve right in your throat. And 5, simple self-massage, especially on the feet or neck, to encourage rest and digestion.
Section 6. The path to integration. Comprehensive recovery really boils down to 3 sequential pillars: stabilization, memory processing, and relational repair. Let's move to and see how this builds into our ultimate goal. Stabilizing your system, processing those memories, and repairing relational connections all lead to what this quote beautifully states. You see, healing is not about erasing the past or somehow magically never feeling stressed again. The true goal is reorganizing your nervous system. It's about internalizing a foundation of safety so that when you do get dysregulated, because we all do, you can clearly distinguish between a past threat and your present safety. And that allows you to return to balance so much more quickly. We've covered a lot of ground today in this explainer, from the subcortical threat detection of neuroception to the deeply empowering interventions of EMDR and somatic experiencing. You now possess a toolkit full of both everyday strategies and clinical therapies to help reset your nervous system. So I want to leave you with this provocative question. What step will you take today to expand your window of tolerance? Whether it's practicing a longer exhale, exploring a brand new therapy, or honestly just treating yourself with a little more grace, the journey back to balance starts with a single, safe step. Thank you so much for joining me, and I truly hope this empowers you to reclaim your sense of safety.